So what are healthy boundaries? This is a term that's been coming up a lot in society nowadays, but what are healthy boundaries, and more importantly, how do we implement them in our life? My name is Jennifer Van Wyk, and I'm a psychotherapist, a humanitarian, and a best-selling author. This video is all about boundaries. So what are they? Healthy boundaries are essentially the best way to interact with others that promotes their well-being as well as your well-being. So it's all about how can we have these great interactions that leaves us both better people. So why do we need boundaries? We really need them because in our societies and in many cultures around the world, we're not taught how to have healthy boundaries. Now there's one qualifier. I come from a Western country, I'm Canadian, and so I've grown up in an individualistic society. That's mainly North America and Europe, and our values are usually based around freedom and rights and independence. Whereas in many other places in the world, there's more collectivist cultures, and their values are more focused on family and taking care of each other and support, inter-support, working together. So even the field of psychology is actually really coming from this Western lens. So I do want to say that that's what I've grown up with. That's the lens that I see life through. If that's not something that you're familiar with, then just maybe listen to this video, see how it sits with you, and then take that as your main idea of how to move forward. All societies, I think, I've seen it in so many different religions. There's this idea of the golden rule. And the golden rule, if you don't know about it, it's that do unto others as you want done unto yourself. So this is really good in terms of morality, in terms of having a functioning society, but it's not great if we start to use this in terms of healthy boundaries. So I am not a great artist, but I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean. So this is a drawing that I've made. Now, healthy boundaries, this is kind of what sums up healthy boundaries. So if I'm a cactus, and then maybe a romantic partner or somebody in my family or anyone that you interact with often, they might be a flower, right? So this is just to highlight the differences. So if I'm a cactus, then that means that I like lizard poop for food. I love sunshine all year round. I just want a thimble full of water. I hate the shade, right? I like sand and rocks as the ground I grow in, right? But if other people in my life are maybe flowers or trees, then they're gonna like something else. If they're a flower, they're gonna love the composted leaves as their fertilizer. They're gonna like soil rich in nutrients. They like 4 seasons. Maybe they don't even like direct sunlight. They like being in the shade sometimes. They love winter, they love summer, right? They're gonna have all these different things that help them be the best version of themselves. Now, if I, as a cactus, go to my friend and be like, hey, you know what? I love sunshine. Let me take away this shade for you. And oh, you don't have nearly enough rocks and sands. I love rocks and sand. Let me change your ground for you, right? And I start doing what I love to them, or advising them or telling them to do those things. Then what happens, right? They start to wither. The other thing is, even if I'm a cactus and I don't need that much water, I'm still out of my garden and in theirs. And so I'm gonna also start to wither. Now, in love songs, in movies, we're taught that the best relationships are when you take care of somebody and they take care of you. However, what happens is this person's melting, or like way too much sun, getting sunburnt, parched, right? Not doing well. And this person's also completely not doing well. So you're both kind of bringing each other down, actually. So first of all, we can't fully take care of other people's gardens because we don't know what they need, what they want. We can't really take care of other people's gardens. It's just not possible. It's not how humans were made, no matter how much you devote yourself to them. The other thing is, It prevents you from taking care of your garden. You're in all these different gardens, right? Oftentimes there's not just one person in your life. There might be a handful or maybe a whole ton, which means if you're in everybody else's garden, then you never have time to take care of yours. And if your garden's not doing well, then you're gonna start being a crappier and crappier person to all these other people, and you're gonna start making worse decisions and being more miserable and spreading more misery, right? So it's really, really important that you take care of your garden first before you try and help other people, okay? I'm saying this even as a psychotherapist. This is why I spend so much time taking care of my own garden, doing self-care in a way that works for me. The other thing it does is when you're in other people's gardens is it prevents them from being able to learn how to take care of themselves or even take care of themselves, right? It's too many cooks in the kitchen. You're getting in the way when they need to do something. The problem, though, is that it's really difficult to not go into other people's gardens. First, because that's how we're taught to show that we love and care for people, is to go into their garden. So then what happens is everybody in our life actually wants us to go in their garden, and we want other people to go into our garden. That's why healthy boundaries are actually super difficult to implement. Okay, that's why please keep this in mind. It helps to have like a picture in your mind of, okay, what's me, what's not me, right? This is also related to taking on other people's emotions and not taking on other people's emotions. So I want to talk about then, okay, how can we best help people? If going into their garden is actually detrimental for them, how can we actually support them when they need us? First of all, always first, make sure your garden is okay. We don't have to be in our garden, well, we don't have to be like in the cactus the whole time, right? We can go and meet people at the fence, okay? But you first, before you even meet someone at fences, you need to make sure that you're okay. Because if you're not okay, then you're gonna give bad advice. You're gonna give bad support. You're gonna bring that other person down, right? If someone's drowning and you don't know how to swim or you're super exhausted, jumping in and trying to help them will just mean that two people are drowning. And then that person feels bad because they're killing you slowly. I know I'm really dramatic, but it helps to really understand what we're really doing when we have the best intentions. I know everyone's trying to really help other people, but it is not helpful. I really want to get that across because it's so hard to keep the boundary of not going into other people's gardens. Okay, so first, make sure your garden's okay. Did you get enough water? Is your heart feeling okay? Is your soul feeling okay? Are you okay? Now, second thing, I've already mentioned it, meet people at the fence. You don't have to go all the way into their garden. You just meet them at the fence. This means that maybe you're sitting beside them as they're struggling, witnessing their pain. You see it. Oftentimes, this is so underestimated how powerful this is. And yet I've seen 1,000 times over how even witnessing people who are in the lowest point of their life and have lost everything, and you just sit beside them and you see their pain and you feel it with them, that can be absolutely life-changing. Oftentimes, that's all people need. Another way you can support them is by maybe sharing things that have worked for you, like, oh, lizard poop is pretty delicious if you want to try it, but not pressuring them to do it and not taking the responsibility for them to try lizard poop or not. You can just suggest it, this worked for me, or I heard that this worked for somebody else. Maybe it will work for you. I don't know. You need to decide, and there's no pressure, and you're not forcing them, and you're not going into their garden making sure they're eating lizard poop, okay? The other thing is that you can support them in, like, especially with depressed people or anxious people. Sometimes people are suffering so much that they're paralyzed. So you can certainly support them if they decide that they want to do something. You can support them in following through with that decision. So, okay, they've decided they want to see a therapist. You can go and call the therapist and make the appointment for them. But I wouldn't suggest, unless in dire circumstances, following up or making sure that they see a therapist. Me as a therapist, it's not ethical for me to follow up with my clients and see if they need a session. I have to always just wait, and if they need a session, then I'm available. But even if people are like, oh yeah, I'll contact you in a couple months, and it's been 3 months, I will not contact them. That is unethical, because people need to learn to and take responsibility for taking care of their own garden. Every time we do something for somebody else that they could do themselves, we're really disempowering them. We're taking away the opportunity for them to have strength. Confidence isn't about saying, oh, you're so wonderful and you did this and this and this. Confidence is created by going through something difficult and overcoming it. So if we take away, this is for parents as well, if you always take away opportunities of struggle for your children, they have no way to create confidence, right? As much as it's so difficult to see our loved ones struggling, struggle can be really, really an empowering experience for people. And so you can suggest something, you can be, but you do not do for them what they can do for themselves, okay? If they ask, and again, I would only do this if they ask. If they ask for advice, then you can give your advice. As a therapist, again, we're taught don't give advice because that's very disempowering. What advice does is if you give good advice and they do it and it works, then you kind of get all the credit. They don't super get it, so it's disempowering that way. The other negative thing about advice is if you give it and it doesn't work, then you get all the blame. Right? So I would really recommend not trying to avoid giving advice, but I also understand that in this world, we love advice from other people, and people like to get ideas from their loved ones to help them kind of get perspective or give them ideas that they never maybe would have thought about how to solve a problem. So if you give advice, certainly be very clear that you are not at all going to judge them if they follow it or not. And that's just your perspective because you're a cactus and they're a flower and you're not really sure how that might be relevant for them. Okay. What does meeting them at the fence not mean? It does not mean ensuring that they follow your advice, like saying, okay, you need to get 8 hours sleep, you need to do this food. Are you doing it? Calling them every day, right? That is actually disempowering as much as they might want you to do that. And that's the tricky thing. Okay. Again, it's not doing stuff for them that they could do for themselves. We want to empower people. We need people to learn and take responsibility for taking care of their gardens. And that will create a lot more healthy individuals because only us, even my closest romantic relationship that ever existed, or my mother or my father, even they cannot take care of my garden to the extent that's needed. Only I can do that. The third thing is not taking it personally if they don't follow your advice. Again, giving them that freedom to do what they need to do and work in different ways that maybe you don't understand because you're not a flower. So of course, healthy boundaries are all about knowing how to take care of yourself and helping other people, giving other people the space to learn how they need to best take care of themselves in their own way, right? So it's important that you spend time understanding what feeds your soul, right? What helps you feel relaxed? What makes you feel healthy? All of these things are really important questions for you to ask. And then when you meet people at the fence, that's the same questions that you can ask them so that they start thinking about maybe what they need to do and how they can best thrive and be their best selves, right? So before you can help other people, you need to do it yourself, right? We cannot give bananas unless we have bananas. So take some time to really figure out what feeds your plant. What plant are you? What do you need? I need sunshine. I really do. It's one of the main things that helps me to decide which deployments I'll accept or where I'm going to spend my holidays. I also need to meditate every day. I'm just like that. I also need 7 to 9 hours sleep. I wish I didn't need so much sleep, but that's just what I need, right? So it's just understanding who you are and then giving that to yourself so that you're really setting yourself up for success, and you're setting yourself up to be the best partner, the best friend, the best son or daughter that you can be, the best parent, right? It's so, so important that you take care of your garden and you learn how to do this. Many of my visualizations, if not all of them, are all geared towards helping you to take care of your garden. So feel free to check out any of those other videos on my visualizations. One last thing I actually do want to mention is, since other people do not want you to stop going into their garden, or they might get offended if you stop them going into your garden, give people a heads up. Just be like, hey, I'm testing out like a new way of living. I read or I heard somewhere that this is like a healthy boundaries, like mean that we're not so in each other's pockets, so to speak. So I'm gonna try and do something myself, and if you can, like, I still care about you, because that's what people really get offended by. I still care about you. I still love you. And I also want to respect that you know what's best for you. So I'm not going to go in here, or I still care about you. I still love you. So I'd love you to just respect that I need to take time to figure out what it is I need, right? That helps prevent or minimize any hurt that might come from changing and shifting these boundaries that you're going to be creating. I do also want to say that people don't like change, and when we shift, it means everybody else tries to shift. So I do want to give you a heads up. Again, this is not easy to implement. When you shift, other people will try and get you to shift back so that they don't have to shift. Okay, but it is so, so, so important. It helps you be the best person, and it really helps you help those around you to the best possible way you can. So again, in the comments, let me know what feeds your soul. And if you like this video, you can like and subscribe down below, and I'll talk to you soon.